Welcome to the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast, where today's top influencers and entrepreneurs on the rise share empowering stories and ninja tips to become the fuel that ignites a positive change in your life. Our guests don't simply coast through life. They don't let difficult situations stop them. They set big goals, keep their eyes on the prize, and they're joining us today to share insider secrets you can use right now to step into your power and live your purpose. Now, here's your host, Christy Ruffino.
Well, welcome everybody to the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast. I am Christy Ruffino, the host of the show, and I'm so excited to be introducing you to today's guest, Jim Padilla. Welcome, Jim.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on. Really glad to be here today.
Yes. So we're going to spend the next 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes or so, giving you the opportunity to know Jim, learn about who he is, and he's definitely prepared to share some great wisdom with you. But before we get started, I want to read his short little intro. Jim is the founder of Gain the Edge. I don't know if it's a marketing company. It just says founder of Gain the Edge. Jim is known in the professional development and business coaching world as the go-to guy for all things sales. With their army, him and his wife's army of heart-centered sales rock stars, Jim and his wife, Cyndi, partner up with top industry leaders to help exponentially increase their online launch and back of the room revenue. So all online and live events. So this is super exciting. I'm looking forward to learning from you, Jim. Again, welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. And it's interesting because it's weird that they kind of had the cliffhanger, Gain the Edge. What? Right?
Yes.
But it's interesting because Gain the Edge has been in business since 2005. But it's been 5 different businesses because it used to be like something I did on the side. I used to coach high school athletes, high school basketball players, and then golf coach and stuff. And so I used to have a training business where I would train college-bound athletes, and it was called Gain the Edge. It was helping them stay on the edge of their skill sets, et cetera. And then later it became a cash flow coaching business when I was in mortgage, when I had a mortgage company. And then when I moved into my sales training company, I just kept the edge. It always fit. Whatever we're doing, we're trying to help you gain that competitive edge. And then as me and Cyndi jumped into business together in 2013, for the last 7, 8, whatever this is now, years, this has been Gain the Edge. Technically, we're a leadership development company. It's just nobody wants to buy leadership. So we do leadership by leading leaders in the areas of sales and helping people step out and stand out as the leaders that they were called to be. But still gain the edge.
I love that. That is great. So it's almost like Gain the Edge empire. You've created this empire of a journey of being able to help people, and it's evolved as your skills and the needs of the world have evolved, and you're serving them where you feel that you're best to serve them right now, you and your wife. So
yeah, we're in the middle of creating what we call our network of businesses. We want to have a fully self-sustainable network empire. So that any solution we need in the world of people that we serve, we can provide either through us or through our partners.
And honestly, that's where we met, and through one of those partner communities.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So great. So you and your wife now are moving forward on a clear path of making an impact in the world. How did that evolve? I want you to share a little bit about your story and how that came to be right now, and why are you so passionate about this?
Well, for me, the beginning actually started as a kid. And so, I was born to teenage parents. My mom was 16, my dad was 17. They met in an orphanage. So they clearly had no real parental guidance of their own. And, they had no business having me, but we're pretty glad that they did. And my dad took off immediately. My mom responded to a very challenging situation with rage, anger, and fear. And so I grew up in a very, very challenging, abusive, very difficult environment. I was in foster care at 13. I was on the streets at 16, and I was in jail at 19. And so I spent the first 20 years of my life spending every single day trying to figure out, how do I win the environment so that I don't get hurt? I thought I had to win my mom over, because I thought it was my fault somehow that I was getting beat and abused all the time. I had to get into situations where I wouldn't be the enemy. I didn't feel like I had to do whatever I could to not be a threat to the people around me so that they would want to see me as an ally. And so I just sort of learned this skill set of really being able to read the room and approach people and connect with them so that they could see there was a reason and an advantage to having me in their world. But you don't do that by giving some predetermined message to people. You had to really read them and know what they need and how to deliver a message. And so, little did I know that 25 years later, I'd be making millions of dollars teaching other people how to read the room, read the environment, learn how to defuse people, and get them to let down their guard so they don't see you as a threat, so that then they can trust you and want to buy from you. Right. Um, been the evolution. It's been just an incredible experience all along the way, and learning how to decode that and make that something that is teachable. Because here's the real thing, guys. This is what we can talk about here in terms of some of the nuggets and the lessons. You can do 100% of everything I'm doing, because all I did was figure out how to make myself more human, and then how to put that into a process to help you be more of you, instead of like most sales trainings and most sales systems that are teaching you how to do something. And I'm not here to teach you how to do something. I'm here to teach you how to show up as you and sell you, because nobody's buying your stuff because they don't care about your stuff. They care about you and what you're going to help them accomplish. They only care about outcomes and experiences. And that you're all too busy selling your products and stuff, and you wonder why people aren't buying.
Yeah. Wow. What a story. And now I know we had a couple of conversations in some breakout rooms in the past about a little bit of that. But wow, jail at 19, your first 20 years of your life basically was a mess, but you took that pain and the lessons learned through all of those experiences, and now you use that to help people in that way, and in business specifically. Because you're right,
Yeah.
if we don't get out of our head and out of our own way, and learn how to meet our audience, our prospects, our clients where they're at, we can't help them. We really can't.
Right.
So, wow.
Yeah. And you just get really good. If you truly care, if you're the expert of the problem you solve, and you truly care about the people that you solve it for, then you're going to go far out of your way to get into their world, so you know how to lead them out of the state that they're in and into something that they desire and need and can be of benefit. But you can't do it from the sidelines. You have to actually get into their world to be as effective as you need to be, especially today and as competitive as the marketplace is. There's 10,000 people, if not a million, who do what you do. And so if you just have a little different messaging, then you're not different enough to be significant. So why on earth should I change what I'm doing to work with you when I already have somebody who does it kind of similarly to you? So you
Yeah.
have to show up impeccably and powerfully as the expert of what you do. And, we specialize in not teaching people sales systems, structures, and strategies. Believe it or not, we spend all of our time teaching people how to make more sales without getting better at selling. Because I can teach you all the tactics in the world, but if you aren't dialed in to being the best possible version of you, who can really identify the problems and the solutions and the pains that your ideal people serve, that you can tell a story about it all the time because you are that person. So you almost don't even have to use words. People just resonate and show up. When we talk about not using scripts and having sales systems, and we talk about selling you versus selling product, I get people all the time who push back. They think I'm crazy. I've had many discussions with a lot of top industry leaders. They're like, you have to have script. You have to. I'm like, well, I got, $239 million worth of sales that says you don't, right? I'm not saying you don't need that stuff. I'm saying it's not necessary, right? Because there's no script on the planet that can tell you how to be you.
Right. Right. Because what you said earlier is people don't care about your stuff. They care about
Correct.
themselves and what they need. And why are you different than everybody else selling the same stuff?
Right.
And a couple things that I want to point out is, we're really big on story. That's really my focus, is helping people identify their signature story and use that as their message in the world. And that's a key piece, because that is your differentiator. That's really what makes you, as you say. And then the other key piece that you mentioned is you're becoming an expert. And that's one of the conversations, I think one of the main conversations I have with my clients is they want to help everybody. They want to be able to never say no. They say yes to everybody. They don't want to niche it down. They feel that that's like, holding them back. And they're remaining the Jill of all trades, and they're not their people are not hearing them because their message is so watered down.
Right. Well, here's something else. Again, there's a couple of different perspectives that I bring into the sales game that are either unique or just different enough that it's, it creates its own place for me. Number one is I don't buy into the myth of a vertical niche only, like, because too many times there's a lot of people who don't really know the who as well in terms of, okay, marketers or chiropractors or divorced moms, whatever. Those are great areas, but to me that's just the beginning, because our niche is much more focused on the when. We call it, or instead of the vertical, we call it the horizontal axis. And so when people are fed up with doing transactional sales and ready to start scaling their business, when people are reaching a crossroads where you have to decide between, do I sell or do I run my company, because I can't continue to do both because I'm maxed out. When I'm at a place where I have maxed out my own capability of sales and I now either need to get better at it, find new ways to do sales events, or hire a sales team, right? You're at this transaction, just this intersection of where you need to go. That's much more of an identifier for us than who you are. In
Right.
terms of who you are, I'm way more concerned with, are you a go-getter? Are you an overachiever? Are you somebody who knows you need to be at that behind me there? It's Half Dome in Yosemite painting there. And you need to be the person who wants to be on top of that mountain, not just the person who wants to be sitting down here looking at how beautiful it is. I don't work with those people. I only work with the people who know they need to be at the mountaintop, but they're not quite sure how to get there or how to stay there because they've been up there and fallen down. Right. So I want to give people permission and freedom to not be so locked into, how do I identify this person? Because sometimes it's not as easy, but it's much more easy to identify where you meet them on the journey.
So for you, that was the example of your when, but depending on the person that's listening, what their business is, their when is going to be different. So you could have
Correct.
multiple avatars, but as long as they're at that same point where they are ready to make that change. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Kind of. I'll even simplify it more than that, though. It's like, I would say the avatar is the when, as opposed to, because
Right.
here's the problem. We start fooling ourselves. We go, okay, if we have multiple avatars, now all of a sudden that's a lot of work. I'm like, oh no, I got Susie as an avatar. I got Jane as an avatar. I got Steve as an avatar. Holy cow, how am I going to keep track of all of them? And then this gives you the ability to be the expert of that intersection across multiple industries.
I love that.
So then you're also showing, you're leading to other people that are needing the same problem solved, but they're not all entrenched in this same vertical where you have all kinds of other people also banging on them for the same level of attention and investment that you are. Right. And then when you can solve this problem powerfully, it's like for us, I mean, we made our name known and our inroads in the coaching and personal development arena, but we get people from technology companies, corporate companies, because reach out to us all the time, or get introduced to us all the time, because we're fantastic at building sales teams, fantastic at putting together sales and strategic events, and phenomenal at helping salespeople make more sales without them having to become a sales expert. Right. So those are things that transcend any freaking industry. But again, it's all about the win.
Wow. So basically, if I picture myself standing at the intersection when all these different people come through and they're stopping at the intersection when they're stuck, and that's when I can help them. Like when they're in that, anybody, no matter who they are, when they stop at that intersection in the place that I can help them, that's my avatar. I love that. I love it. It's a completely different way of thinking, but it's really the same, but it's actually simplifying it.
Right. And here's the questions you can ask yourself. So, because the key is you got to be able to ask really good questions of your avatar, of the person, so that they will clearly identify you as an expert. Don't ask questions that just reveal a problem. Ask questions in a way that reveal that you know their problem better than they do and better than other people do. Okay. So as one example, I used to just do 20 local talks a month. I would go out, talk to insurance companies, real estate agents, whoever had salespeople. And I would call sales managers, say, and as soon as you answer the phone, be, hey, Christy, who's the person on your team that you should have fired, but you haven't because you really like them? Because every sales manager has one of those. So that already implies that I understand your pain. I know about sales teams. I've dealt with this. I run this. I don't have to call and say, hey, this is Jim. I'm a sales expert. I'm looking to help sales train. Because I might not even get through that sentence before you say no thanks. But when I go straight to the heart of asking a question that you have an answer to that, almost everybody can think of one right now.
Right.
right? Because we've been there. And so
Right.
it automatically puts you to the front of the line. You show up as the expert, which automatically implies you know the other things, right? And that's just one sample of that. But this is what every single one of you need to be thinking about, because you're too busy describing the problem instead of putting yourself in front of the class and speaking to the awareness of the knowing of the problems that they're experiencing that are on a deeper level, right? So I jump to the front of the line, and that conversation already begins with a whole bunch of assumptions. I already know his problems. I know they have a problem. I know they have some struggles. I know his pain. His job may be on the line. We know they're not hitting their revenue numbers if they have people on the team, on their sales team, who they haven't fired and they should have, right? So there's things that we can already assume in a conversation that I no longer have to worry about digging around and probing.
Right. And that's when you don't have to become a salesperson, because they're basically asking you for help at that point, right? They're like, oh my gosh, I
Exactly.
need you to help me. I love that.
100%. That's why I say this over and over. This is about making more sales without becoming a better salesperson, without becoming a sales expert. This just puts you in a position of being a better human. You understand the problem. You care enough about them to find out the problems. You just ask really good questions. You challenge them with really truthful answers, and tell them, you don't tell them things are okay if they're not. You don't tell them it's okay if they don't buy, if it's not. You
Right.
don't need to be attached. That's different. Being attached is different. I can't be, oh my God, if they don't buy, I'm going to die. But if I know for a fact you don't have a solution and you can't articulate to me that you've got a path out of this, but you're going to tell me you don't need this, it is my duty and obligation to tell you you're out of your mind. You can't make that decision right now. Let me put it this way. Could you go home and tell your wife about this conversation and the fact that you didn't make this decision? Right?
Mm,
Could you tell your business partners? Could you tell your employees? If you're hiding it from them, you know you're doing the wrong thing right now.
wow. All right. Well, we are all, this is going to be an action packed episode, because you're already like sharing so much great information. But I do want to back up a moment,
Okay.
and kind of pivot back to your story, because I want to ask how your wife, Cyndi, got involved with you. I want to hear
Oh,
the story around that, because we have
sure.
my audience is a community of women. We have a lot of male listeners as well, but uh, there has to be a story around there. And I'm curious
There,
to learn what that is.
there is, and it's a big line of demarcation moment in our life. And it was November 13th of 2013. Remember this specifically. Cyndi she spent 25 years in retail corporate management. So she ran stores for Target, Old Navy, Gap, and all that. And she was a turnaround specialist. And of course, Black Friday is kind of, hell week for them. And she was not happy. She spent the last couple of years, there were times she was coming home crying. She just was not happy in her job. And she but she was the breadwinner. She had the benefits. She had the 6-figure career. I was the crazy entrepreneur who could make money, lose money, build businesses, crash businesses. I had no real responsibility because she was anchoring us. And she came to me this November 13th of 2013, sat me down. We were starting to do some good things in our business. But prior to that, we had split up in 2009 because I was in mortgage. I took some really risky, foolish um, risks and chances with our money, and we lost everything. We filed bankruptcy, lost 3 homes. It was a really bad situation. We split up for 18 months. I wasn't sure if we were ever going to get back together. She could not trust me, not just with the money, but with the ability to tell her the truth about them. She was like, how could you just not share this with me? Right. So I didn't know if we were ever going to get back together. And a couple of years later, we did. But there was a lot of moving and learning and growing. And in the meantime, I had started playing grown-up entrepreneur and had to be responsible and had to be effective and successful. And she started seeing the path and the track that I was on. And then fast forward to November in 2013, and she said, I'm asking for your blessing to step down and retire. She's like, I can't do another Black Friday. I cannot do this environment anymore. It's going to kill me. And all I remember was sitting there saying, don't show fear. Don't show fear. I don't know what else she said after that, because I was just like, holy crap, now it's up to me. And I
Right.
couldn't dare tell her no. So I said, hey, come on in. Let's do it. I got you. And from that
Wow.
moment on, I became the grown up. I became the man of God I was supposed to be. And I was,
Yeah.
allowed to be the one who could lead and serve and provide for our family. And she took some time off to play and go mess around for a few months. But then she decided, hey, let's get into this thing and let's figure this out. And her whole thing, she didn't want to do sales. She was not even interested in sales. She was like, let's work with leaders. Let's help. I want to lead leaders and develop leaders. But as you well know, nobody ever wants to hire leadership training, right? Nobody ever thinks that's the most important priority. And so we came through this avenue of working with scaling companies because we got to work with leaders and help them become better leaders by helping them grow their companies, and then bring in other people, build in all the systems and the structures behind them so that they could be the expert out in front, leading the movement and building the business, right? So now we have become leaders of leaders, even though that's not the title of what we do. Sales is just the vehicle in which we do it.
Wow. That is a great story. We're going to have to get Cyndi on our podcast, or maybe even get
Yes.
her story in one of our Overcoming Mediocrity books, because I'm sure her perspective is just as compelling.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been an amazing journey. And for me, that was such a pivotal moment, because that moment was like a benchmark moment for me, because it said, okay, I went from the person she couldn't count on and
Yeah.
couldn't trust to the person she had to count on.
Yes. Wow. Wow. All right. So we're going to take a quick break. So if you don't mind hanging on, and audience, hold on. We'll be back shortly. And I know Jim has, some more great things he wants to share. Something about not leading a horse to water, why it's a bad idea. So we're going to hear that and many more great ninja tips in just a moment when we come right back. Why spend hours networking in person and now online, only to interact without ever connecting? Who wants to be even busier when our goal is simply to get more business? Since 2003, the Dynamic Professional Women's Network, aka DPWN, has established itself as the premier network for women to grow their businesses through relationship networking. With local and global members across the nation, DPWN sisters help each other prosper through collaboration, mentorship, accountability, support, wisdom, and most importantly, referral generation. To join the DPWN team, visit dpwnglobal.com. All right, welcome back, friends. We are here still with Jim Padilla, and I know we kind of gave you this little hint about why leading a horse to water is a bad idea. Can you expound upon that a little bit, Jim?
Sure. There's again, I mentioned earlier, the earlier part of the interview, that I have just some differing perspectives on myths, and one of them is the know, like, trust myth. If we have time, we'll get to that, but that'll be just a little teaser in case, if not. But here's the other thing: we often hear this phrase, this term, that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And a lot of sales training kind of falls around that. It's like, how do you get this horse to want to drink? And I used to fall prey to that too. And I was having a meal with a billionaire named Naveen Jain, who has got a legacy of incredible successes, including being part of Bill Clinton's cabinet back in the day. And he's now working on teams with Elon Musk, putting manned rocket ships on the moon. So he's always involved in incredible things. And I was blessed to sit down and have a meal with him. And we were talking about some of our challenges with our sales team and some of the things we're trying to solve. And we were talking about this concept. I said, it's all this, we're really good at leading them to the water. We're just not getting them, as many of them, to drink as possible. And he said, well, first of all, what you're describing, I don't think that's actually what's happening. He said, but here's the thing. Your job is not to lead them to the water, because that's what everybody does. Everybody's too busy trying to convince people to move them towards the water. What you need to be doing is getting them thirsty. If you get a horse thirsty, they'll go out of their way. They will move heaven and earth to find the water. And it is no longer your job to convince them that the water's wet. It's just your job to get them thirsty. And that was like the biggest light bulb that popped over my head, light bulb of clarity. And what really came to me in that moment was that influence is not like a thing. It's not a place. It's not a destination. It's really a spectrum or a continuum. And on one end of the continuum is convincing, which is high effort. This is where most of you live, right? We spend all of our time trying to convince people that, we got to lead them to the water, right? There's something there, right? And then the next step of that is prove. Now that we were leading them to the water, we have to try to prove to them that this water's wet. Look, the water's wet. Check, you throw water on your face, right? Just think about you. If you're trying to show up, you're looking for sales training help and I'm throwing water at your face. Is this helping you? Are you trying to convince you, right? And that's what most of us are doing. We're trying to convince them, look at how I do this and look at what I do. And you haven't even really tapped into what their pain is. And the real pain, the real thing that we need to be doing is influencing them, persuading them, right? So what happens for most of us, and this is where almost everybody stops, if we reach this level at all. Most of you live in proving and convincing, and you wonder why things are so hard. Some of you have reached a level of persuasion, and we feel like that's the end of the road, because now this is about making them see that water is in their best interest. Now, this is not a proving and forcing conversation. This is, okay, I'm going to show you water's in your best interest. And now it's up to you if you're going to drink it or not. That's much more powerful and less effort. This is not you dragging, pushing, grabbing. This is not a fight. This is much more of a partnership opportunity. And so it feels a little bit more natural. And so that's why most people stop there. But we haven't realized is there's another place to take it. And there's a dozen steps on this process. But at the end of the spectrum, where we want to live, where we spend our time, is compelling. When you're compelling, you are literally putting them in a place where they can see for themselves. Okay, the definition of compel is to be forced or driven to a particular course of action by an internal irresistible urge. An internal irresistible urge says, I need that water. I need that water now. And I need you to get out of my way because I know the water's over there somewhere and I'm going to go get it. Right? Or they grab you and say, you better show it to me now because I need that water. Okay. That's way different than you going, are you sure? Ready? Come on. I'm going to pull you here. I'm still kind of dancing with you. Right? Do you have people showing up saying, this is incredible. Show me how I buy it. This is incredible. How do we work together? How do I get more? How do I get this? If that's not what's happening to you every day, then I want you to investigate where you are on the spectrum. Are you convincing? Are you proving? Are you persuading? Or are you compelling? When you're compelling, you don't have to do things like, hey, let me help you figure out how to find money, because they will sell their grandma to get the money. Right? Yeah. Truly, this is the kind of person who said, when they say, this is when it puts you in a position, and these are the kind of conversations that I have with people. I talk to people and say things like, well, how much are you paying for cable? Well, I'm paying $179 a month. Well, you just got through telling me that this problem is urgent. DEFCON 5, level 10 emergency, which means it should be the only thing you're focusing on, which means you shouldn't be spending $179 a month on cable. You need to take your TV off the wall, go down to the local grocery store and stand out there until you sell it, right? That's the kind of commitment that somebody moves who is compelled to solve the problem, right? You don't have to be the person to show them all the ideas and the ways to find money. You don't have to say, can you borrow from your uncle? Can you get a credit card? Because they already know all the places that they can go. Your job is to keep them so thirsty that they will knock down everything and run over everything. And they will sell cars. They will do what they must to make powerful decisions, to be able to move forward, because they have been compelled. They have this inner, intentional, irresistible urge to solve this problem because of how clearly you have positioned it, how strongly you have put it in front of them, and how you've demonstrated that you know where the path is. And this is the most important part of this. We don't have anywhere near enough time to dive into the depth of this, but understand this perspective. If you're sharing things with people, like right this minute, we're talking about this, and if you're going, yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's good. I like that. I've been thinking, then guess what? You're not likely to move forward, because you already think this. So I haven't done anything compelling for you. If you're sitting there going, wow, I have not thought of that. I thought influence and persuasion was the way to go. I didn't realize that there was a way to not have to actually make offers, just show up and be compelling and let people want to buy from me. Then what I've done is shifted the way you're thinking about it. And in so doing, the only way you can get more about this is to come to me, right? So what is the thing that you believed so powerfully, so distinctly about the problem you solve in ways that nobody else does, that you can claim it, proclaim it proudly and boldly, so that other people go, wow, I have never thought about it like that. Because if they've never thought about it like that, that means there's no place else they can go to get more information. So essentially, when they have that shift, your little puppy dog, that, right? When that happens, you essentially just cleared a path. And now the only way to get down that path is by following you or working with you or coming to you to at least get more. right? So you want to be so clear about that. And here's the thing, you've got that. This is not about being some tricky gimmick. This is about you knowing your problem and your solution and the person you solve it for and how you solve it for them and when you solve it for them in ways that you can articulate it, talk about it, describe it till the cows come home. You beat that drum all over town and everybody else wants to start beating it for you too, because they all know what you do and they will all send people on that path because they believe in you to be the person who can help deliver that outcome for them. Right now, the game starts shifting.
Wow. Yes. All right. So we are getting close to being out of time. So I know you mentioned something about the know, like, and trust factor. And I know you've got a free gift that you want to share with the audience, but I want to kind of stay on this compelling offer or this compelling concept. If somebody that's listening right now, it has just been captivated by everything you've said, how can they get more of this? Because I know the free gift that you have is a little different, and it's a great gift. I love what you're sharing. But if they, and I know I just went through your challenge that was phenomenal. But if they want to get more information about how to become more compelling, how would they do that?
Well, ironically, the gift that we have actually is directly in this conversation, because part of becoming compelling is having impeccable positioning in the marketplace and the ability to attract premier partners. And the most effective way we know how to do that is to have an event, is to be the center, the epicenter of the activity, so that you can be serving 10, 20, 100, or 1,000 people at a time, which positions you as the ultimate expert, which is part of what makes you compelling. Now, there's a lot more to it, and it's about ways to do it effectively. But this resource that we have over the course of the COVID 2020 year and all the weirdness that went on, we went from doing all kinds of in-person events to as creative in as many ways as possible to make profitable online events. And we specialize in taking an event and make it a revenue producing activity or revenue producing asset for you. And so what we did was we put a resource together that has 29 online profitable event ideas. So it's literally 29 different things that we have done either for us or for our clients that produced a profit. And so we shared them with you, and the whole focus around them is helping you get greater positioning, more partners, or greater profit. And when you do, then it's how do you pull all of this, everything we were just talking about, into the visualization, the delivery, the expectation, and how you're moving people through a process. Because everything you do as an event should have an educational component that leads to a sales opportunity for people to move forward with you. And the whole focus is not about selling your products, it's about winning people over to your way of thinking and winning customers.
Oh gosh. All right. Well, I've got a page of notes, a page and a half of notes. This has been great. I want to thank you, Jim, for being on our show. If anybody wants to, everybody that is listening wants to connect with Jim, we will have all of his contact information in the show notes below of this episode, as well as we will put your free gift in our gift vault. So awesome. All of the listeners will be able to get that and be able to get on this journey with you to become more compelling and just honestly increase their sales. It's the bottom line.
Amen. That's the name of the game, guys. If people aren't buying what you're selling, and that doesn't mean just your products, again, it means your ideas, your beliefs, and everything you're doing. Don't think you've got a lead generation. You probably just have a positioning problem, not a lead gen problem. And positioning comes with being compelling, and it's a whole different way to play. So instead of spending all your time trying to figure out how to perfect sales and chase leads, start figuring out how you'll spend all your time figuring out how to position your world in such a way that people show up wanting to buy.
Get them thirsty.
Amen.
Amen. All right. Thanks so much, Jim. And all of you listening, if you learned something great today with your notes, make sure you share it with somebody you know, because the best way that you can learn and retain that knowledge is by teaching it to somebody else. And of course, we would love to have you share our podcast with everybody you know as well, because we really want to make sure that we continue blessing the world with all of our amazing guests with their really great stories and ninja tips. So until our next episode, have a great rest of the week and keep just doing everything you can to show up big in the world. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast, where we believe that everyone can have the business and life of their dreams once they've learned the art of mastering their story. Mastering our stories is the key to everything we want in life. Our stories can either hold us back or they can propel us to new heights. We can choose. You can choose. Choose to overcome mediocrity with us. Let's achieve greatness together. To learn more, visit www.overcomingmediocrity.org. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast.